The Electoral Commission has declared the pro-Russian Georgian Dream party winner of parliamentary elections. With almost all the votes counted, official results give them over 54% of the vote in a poll seen as crucial for the former Soviet republic's future. The country's pro-European Union opposition says the results were falsified and the election stolen.
The ruling Georgian Dream party is celebrating victory, promising Georgians what they call a European future.
More than 1 million of our citizens came to the polling stations and supported peace, our country's truly bright and European future. Georgian people are the main authors of this victory.
But the Georgian opposition disputes both the commitment of the ruling party to such a future as well as its victory. Georgian Dream came to power in 2012 with a pro-Western agenda, but has shifted to a Eurosceptic course over the past 2 years.
This is an attempt not to steal the results of one party's support, but this is an attempt to steal Georgia's European future.
Georgian Dream cannot remain in power in this country. These are stolen elections. This is a usurpation of power and a constitutional coup. It will not be accepted. This is not Russia. This is not Venezuela. This is Georgia.
Some monitoring groups reported violence and violations during the elections. Here, a man is seen stuffing multiple votes into a ballot box. This video shows scuffles outside a campaign office of the United National Movement, Georgia's main opposition force. The party says dozens of men tried to storm its headquarters, later driving off in cars bearing flags of the ruling Georgian Dream party. For the Georgian opposition, this election was a make-or-break vote on the chance of joining the European Union. And Brussels has said that the election will determine Georgia's chances of joining. That's increasingly unlikely if the Georgian Dream party remains in power.
DW correspondent Juri Rescheto joins us from Tbilisi. Juri, with the ruling party now claiming victory, what are the options of the opposition?
Well, Monica, the four largest opposition parties have not accepted these results. That's what they say. They said this morning at the press conference here in Tbilisi. They were talking about constitutional coup and stolen victory, we saw it in the report. Now they would be analyzing the results, they say, but they stopped short for the moment of alleging any falsifications. In any case, they would refuse to work with the next government if this government is actually going to be made up of representatives of the ruling party. And they probably fear personal consequences because the ruling Georgian Dream party threatened to ban all liberal opposition parties and to bring their leaders to justice, to court.
So why, Juri, is the opposition actually questioning the preliminary election result? What have monitors, NGOs, the OSCE, what have they said about the vote and the voting process?
Well, we're expecting the first press conference of OSCE this afternoon, Monica. The OSCE is represented here with more than 350 election observers. So let's say what they say. Georgian President Zurabishvili, she used to be, by the way, an ally of the ruling party, and now she is its harsh critic. She claimed that Georgian Dream party bought many votes in the run-up to the election. Domestic election observers spoke of various forms of vote rigging. An independent Georgian election monitoring group reported cases of violence outside several polling stations. There was a video, we saw it in the report right now, on social media that showed a man stuffing several ballot papers into a ballot box. However, the Central Election Commission declared that the election was peaceful and free.
And what is Georgian Dream's plan? Where do they want to take Georgia?
Well, Georgia was one of the most pro-Western states after the collapse of the Soviet Union. But since 2022, since the war in Ukraine, however, things have changed. And the ruling party, Georgian Dream, refused to impose sanctions against Moscow, unlike Georgia's allies in the West. They campaigned to keep Georgia out of the war in Ukraine. And people who re-elected Georgian Dream were probably afraid that the war in Ukraine would come to Georgia if Georgian Dream didn't win. So the ruling party scared many people here. At the same time, an increasingly Russia-friendly policy has been evident over the past 2 years. The founder of this party, the richest man in Georgia, billionaire Ivanishvili, is considered loyal to the Kremlin. He made his fortune in Russia in the 1990s. He does not want Georgia to impose sanctions against Russia. Georgia has a lot of trade with Russia, and this is unlikely to change for the time being.
So, Juri, the Electoral Commission has declared the ruling party the winner of the election. How is this news going down with Georgians this morning?
Well, Monica, it depends on who are you talking to. Here, many believe that the results do not reflect the will of Georgian citizens. That could be true, at least for the people here in Tbilisi, where the Georgian Dream ruling party have gotten few votes. Many young people we have been talking to said they are disappointed. They are going to leave Georgia maybe because they don't see any future here, because the ruling Georgian Dream party is going away from Europe and taking this country away from Europe. Now I'm joined by political scientist Renata Skardziute-Kereselidze here from Georgian Institute of Politics, and I'd like to ask you, how can it be that 80% of Georgians voted for the EU integration, for membership, according to polls, and now vote the anti-EU party?
Hello, thank you for having me here. Georgian Dream went to elections with the EU flag, not as anti-EU political power. Their slogan was that we want to come to the EU, to take this country to the EU. Only the caveat is on our own terms. It seems that part of the population was convinced by the Georgian Dream that EU integration is a technical process that the government will be able to handle despite all the drawbacks and criticism.
Did the war in Ukraine play any role in voters' decisions?
Absolutely. The war in Ukraine has major ripple effects in countries nearby, such as Georgia. The fear of the war expanding, coming here as well, is also real. And that was another very important and strong message from the ruling party. This was one of the very few parties that were promising peace, and they were promising to guarantee peace for the country and for the people here. This was very important as well to their voters.
We're standing here on Liberty Square in the middle of Tbilisi. It's pretty quiet on the streets. How great is the potential for any protests?
Georgian Dream, as of now, the results that we have received 54% of the votes. We were waiting for OSCE also to confirm the elections, and after that, political parties, opposition parties will decide. They will probably be bringing people to the street to protest the results, but it will be very difficult to reach any different outcome. We already saw people in the streets en masse in spring. Then they had very clear goal to reverse the foreign agents law. They did not succeed despite of having very big crowds on the streets. Now it will be even more difficult.
We're standing here on Liberty Square. How liberal, how free will Georgia be in the future?
I think yesterday's elections was a good indication of what we might expect in the upcoming future. It was quite controlled process. Quite many substantial violations were observed and reported. And in the next 4 years, there will be very little incentive for the Georgian Dream Party to become more democratic, more liberal. We might see much more pressure on critical voices and independent voices in the country.
And what is the probable victory of the pro-Russian or Russian-friendly party here in Georgia mean for the European Union?
Well, Georgia was a sort of laboratory for the EU in promoting European values, human rights, rule of law, and for some time it was a front-runner, poster child of the EU. Now the situation is quite the opposite, it's very difficult, and for those independent voices it will be very important to receive support from the EU, from Western partners. The struggle is far from over, and EU reactions here will be very important.